Says, and now we're live. Okay. So good. I don't think I have any housekeeping comments, Mary Beth.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Saturdays with Tara. I'm Mary Beth. You are at the Law of Attraction Club on the web at theloaclub.com. With me is Robin, and he'll be bringing through Tara for us this morning. And we look forward to a wonderful interaction. So over to Tara and Robin.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is in your time-based world. We often speculate on what it would be like to be in a time-based world. And we know that we often talk as if there is time with you because it is difficult for you who are immersed in that space-time reality to imagine a world without time, or to imagine a world, for that matter, without space. And so, as always, we will be often talking about things as if this world is real, and yet, of course, we want you to understand that it is an illusion, a very powerful, a very strong, a very exciting illusion nevertheless. I mean, it is the stage on which you chose to come forth here. It is the movie that you are writing the screenplay for. And so here we are in this, if you like, space-time adventure with you. And today we would like to talk a little bit about books. Because even as a library has books, so there are books in that library of yours, in your mind. And here you are in this space-time world, and as we say, sometimes you dance and sometimes you struggle in this life on Earth. And then along comes us, these non-physical entities like us, and we say, well, actually, you know, this contrast is the very reason you chose to be here. It is the experience of the struggle that stimulates the desire for more dancing and the fun of creating something different. So then often your reaction is, enough already with the contrast, how about a little more of the fun part? We've been discussing this week a little about the differences between you and us, and firstly, fundamentally, we would say there is very little difference between you and us. You might say, but how can that be? We're a physical being on a physical planet, and you are a non-physical entity of some sort of description, vaguely floating around somewhere. What could be more different? And we say, then you are not understanding the fundamental nature of you and us, because we are a part of consciousness even as you are. And we make choices even as you do. And we experience contrast even as you do. Perhaps we might say a much less range of contrast than you do, but we experience contrast even as you do. We are attracting you into our world even as you are attracting us into yours. And so here we are today once again, dancing with you. So let's explore a technique you can use for choosing better feeling thoughts. Better feeling thoughts, the really important piece of it all. Nothing is more important than feeling good, because when you are feeling good, you are heading in the direction you innately want to be, want to go. You are heading in the direction we are summoning you, and your inner being is summoning you, and every fiber of your being is summoning you. And when you are feeling bad, it is not just a reaction you sort of have as a human being to things externally around you. It is the fact that you are, if you like, in some ways pinching yourself off. You are separating yourself off from that life force, from that creative force. And it doesn't feel good. You think it doesn't feel good because you're creating something in your environment. You've come across something in your environment that doesn't suit you. We say you are feeling not so good because when you encounter that thing we call contrast, that your reaction to it is evidence of the fact that you are heading in the wrong direction, because we want to persuade you that you can experience that contrast and rise above it and use it as, if you like, fuel for the fire. It stokes your passion. It stokes your desire for change. So how do we get that to be a practice in your life? How does that come to be something that is automatic for you? Because all of that means changing a few habits. Changing habits is what this is all about. And those habits are things you've spent a little time focusing on. You've spent a lifetime practicing it. You've spent a lifetime in the metaphor we are using today, building up that library. And so changing it takes a little bit of determination, shall we say, a little bit of focus, a little bit of making sure that you are heading in the right direction. And that helps if you understand everything. We have found that if you have the confidence that comes from knowing all about what you are doing, if you have the confidence that comes from knowing the things that work and the things that don't work, if you have the confidence that comes from understanding who you are, it really helps. So today we're going to do a little exploration once more with you of the nature of things. And then we're going to come back to the techniques and the processes of making changes. And today we're going to ask you some questions about things. Now, your first response to the questions may be, well, I don't know anything about that. For example, what if we said to you, what if this one said to you, tomorrow I'm bringing over a friend. I want you to meet them. Now, if I'd said, what if I want you to meet him? I want you to meet him, or I want you to meet her. Once again, you see, in all of these things, what do you know about that person? We would say, what do you know about this friend? And you would say, well, I don't know anything about them. I haven't met them yet, and so on and so on. Well, we say you know an enormous amount about them. You know, for example, that they are humans. And within that, you have put them into an enormous amount of information about them, about the physicalness of them. The fact that you have been invited to participate in this relationship means that you also have some judgments about that friend. What would be the point of interest? You might speculate on it, but you know if there are topics that are of no interest to this one and no interest to you, that it's unlikely that this friend will be interested in those either. So you already have some topics that may be potentially possible to explore with this friend, and so on and so on. And we're just using this to illustrate the fact that you might say, I know nothing about that particular topic, but we say you do. You know an enormous amount about it before you even start. And as we will talk about today, what you don't know about it doesn't exist in your world. So, let's suppose you have a local library. Think about what your local library might look like. The kind with books in it. And in this one's world, there may be a time in the near future where there are no books in libraries. But let's imagine the one that probably exists somewhere in a town near you, in your city, the kind with books in it. If you've never been inside it, what do you know about it? Your first response might be, well, I haven't even driven past it. I don't know what it looks like, let alone what's inside it. Once again, we would say, you know a lot about that library. You just imagine it right now. What do you know about it? What sort of building is it? What will it have inside? There will be lighting. There will be a checkout desk. There will be reading areas, perhaps an internet access area. Can you see that even though you don't know perhaps much of the detail of this, that you already have an idea about what this library is? And as you think about it, you know a lot about it before you even step inside. And so can you see that, as we were talking about a little earlier, on every topic, you already have in your mind some concepts of what it is. You already know very much about everything because, in fact, what's in your mind is what exists, and what is not in your mind does not exist. So now let's look at that building in your mind, the one that contains the definition of your world. And when we say definition, we mean what we have variously called your points of attraction, your blueprint, your screenplay, your tapestry of expectations. So what do you know about this building in your mind, this information store, without ever looking into it? Well, you built it. You built it and its contents. You created everything within it. It's the record of every belief choice you ever made. It's that huge store of information that you mostly never think about, but which describes everything around you. Just for a minute, picture that mind library of yours and the books that are in there. There's a book on every noun in your language and a book on every verb in your language. Can you see how big it is, how huge it is? Now let's go into that local library, the one down the street perhaps, and explore a little. There are sections. There is fiction and non-fiction. There are books of many shapes and sizes. If we ask you what you know about one of these particular books, once again you might say, well, until I read it, nothing. But in fact you know many things. You know things in general about what books are, what they look like, what they feel like. You know that books in libraries will be there for a reason, that somebody or many people have decided that this is a book worth putting in a library, and so you know things about it. And you know things about different sections of libraries. You know that if it's in one section, it'll contain information on that. So you know that there's sections in this library to help you look for the things that you want to find. And if you take a particular book down from that library and begin to read it, and of course you know more and more about it as you proceed. Perhaps you read the preface, or you read the back cover of the book, the back jacket, to talk about the summary of what's in it. And as you begin that process, now you are filling in the details about what you know about that book. Now let's step once more into that library in your mind. What sections are there in this library? Well, once again, there's fiction and non-fiction, except that this time the non-fiction section is very small. It has only 2 books: Who You Are and Why You're Here, and The Law of Attraction, the organizing principle of everything. You see, in that Who You Are and Why You're Here book is a description of you and everything around you in the physical world and the non-physical world. Who you are and why you are here, the origins of everything. You are a part of consciousness, as we are. You are here, we are here. So there are conscious entities in this world, and none has any less power than any other. None has rank over any other. There just is the existence of these entities, you and us, playing slightly different games, nevertheless very similar. And then there's the law of attraction, the organizing principle of everything. For as long as there is this seeming individuation, that there are, if you like, different pieces of this consciousness with different intentions and different desires, then the law of attraction brings into each of our worlds that which we attract into our world and into your world. The rest of your library here, this record store in your mind, is fiction. And within that, there's sections within that about physical stuff, your world and the physical you, and about your non-physical world and the non-physical you. And this is fiction. And in this huge section labeled fiction, as we said earlier, there's a book on every topic you know about. If you don't know it exists, then in your world it does not. If you know it exists, but know very little detail about it, then in your world those pages remain to be filled in. And without them being filled in, there is no detail in your world. There is any detail that exists in your world about that thing. And as you go through life, as you attract and intersect with those other conscious entities out here, there, physical in your physical world, or non-physical in your non-physical world, as you interact with them within the boundaries you have set, you are filling in the pages of these books one time after another. You are filling in some of the details. As you go through life and make decisions and supposedly learn things about your world, learn things that are the subject of these books, what you are doing is hearing information that's possible, what you have said is possible, what you have defined is possible, and you are writing it into the book. And thereafter that becomes a part of the definition of your world. But remember, all of these books are in the fiction section. And with any of these books, with all of them, you can create a new edition with a changed story. You are the one that's creating it all. So let's go back to that local library of yours. Look around at the fiction and non-fiction sections. Can you see that in reality, the most inaccurate description in this place is the label non-fiction? Because this very library itself is one of the books on the shelves in your mind. And even right at this very instant, right now, as you are thinking about it, you are creating it. You are writing in the book called My Local Library. And everything you write about it that is new is a fiction. Everything that is in there about it is a fiction, because you see, it is your story. Your story defines your world. And you might say, but it's the same local library that everybody else has in their in this area. And we say it is not, and it cannot be. You might say, but I can get with my friends and go to that library and agree that it is the same place. And we would say, of course you can. And as you do that, you are creating your world around you. And that world is going to match what you believe about it. And the versions of your friends that show up for that visit with you to the library will be a match to those beliefs. And so if you believe you will see the same library, you will see the same library. But it is your creation moment by moment. It is yours. And it is all a work of fiction. Now, when we say it is fictional, we are not in any way trying to denigrate this game, to make it seem less important, because it is hugely important. It is the arena, it is the stage on which you have chosen to play out here. And you chose that willingly and eagerly. And it is a magnificent game. We talked a little earlier about the differences between you and us. And one of the minor differences, but which is huge in this game of yours, is that you are engaged in this thing in a physical sense. You can taste chocolate chip ice cream. You can swim and dance at the beach. You can do many things in a physical sense. You enjoy those directly. And we can experience them indirectly, of course, through you. But we cannot do as you do, which is to taste chocolate chip ice cream. So you see, this is a marvelous world you've created here. This is a very realistic movie, and you have dropped into it, and you are playing in it. And isn't that a magnificent game? And that is why we say you're on the leading edge of creation, because here there is stimulus, here there is participation, here there is, if you like, engagement in the stuff of this space-time reality. What a magnificent game. And of course, even as you participate in it, of course, you tend to get absorbed by it. You tend to forget who you are. And that is where we come in. We are here to remind you that this is, in fact, your story. And you are writing in this book. You are writing in these books. So, now the important question becomes, perhaps, how do I know what's written in my books, and how do I rewrite the parts I want to change? In other words, here's where the rubber meets the road. Well, as an exercise here today, we want you to pick a book. And we're going to read it with you. We're not going to read it out loud with you here, because each of you will be doing that in your own space-time sense. But we are going to be doing it vibrationally with you. That's always the first step, to understand what's in that book now. And then we'll pick up a pen or a keyboard, depending on how you choose to create, and create something different. And then we'll submit it for publication. So are you ready here? We want you to get into that library in your mind. Pick a book. Pick a subject. Pull that book down off the shelf here, because we promise you, you can look at it. It is not hidden from you. You created it. You put it on the shelf. And you did that for an enormously good reason, because it is the blueprint. And without the blueprint, without the screenplay, without that tapestry of expectations, none of this would exist. You don't want to run around consciously trying to recreate your world in order to be in the game, trying to think consciously about that library that you've spent a lifetime building up. With all of those thoughts and all of those decisions, second by second, here you are in this place. You don't want to be engaged in consciously creating all of that stuff in order just to play the game. That's what takes place behind the scenes. That's what takes place behind the scenes. That's the miracle of who you are, you see. That all takes place outside of the field of your conscious view. But the mechanism is that which we talk about here. What is in those books defines your world. And it's your library and your library alone. And you can go into it and you can look at these books. So as we said, pick one. Pick a book. Firstly, how does it feel? If you like to feel it in your hand or see it on a screen or whatever, it matters not. Let yourself get a little bit engaged with this. And before you even start, what's your feeling about this book? Is it drama? Is it comedy? Is it fun? Is it adventure? Is it boring? What's in this book already? Just get a feel for what's in there. And how much of that book is written on? Is this a book you have spent an enormous amount of detail creating? That could be one extreme. Or is it a book with blank pages, mostly blank? And you are waiting now then to sketch in the details, if you like, to put some colour in between the lines in this world of yours. So now, think about the contents of this book. Open it up. Look at the pages here. Imagine now that you are an editor and you are creating, if you like, with the author, who is yourself, this new book for publication. You are about to create a new version of this. And as you open this book and look at it, what are the things that feel good to you and what are the things that feel not so good? And can you see that you have an opportunity to backspace over those parts if you're on a screen, to take an eraser and rub out some of those parts, or cross them out and rewrite? So think of one part of this book of yours that you would like to rewrite now. Think about it. Do not dwell on the negative feeling here. Just recognize what it is. This is you playing the role of observer of you and your life. That role that we encourage you into more and more and more. Think about the words you would like to change that are on that page. And think about now what you're going to write down in its place. What are you going to key into that computer for this paragraph as a new story, as a new edition of this book? Just put together a few sentences here that change you from I'm in this boring job to I'm in a world of opportunity to do whatever I like. And we are just giving you some examples here. We're not intending in any way to lead you because we want you to get to your book and what is written there. We want you to, as if you are writing the story, to make it more fun, to make it a love story rather than a hate story, to make it an exciting story rather than a boring story. What would you change? Think about that. and then write it down in the book. Cross out the other stuff, write these new words down. And as you've done that, think about that, because we promise you, this book defines your world. And the degree to which you can, in your mind, cross out that which is there and replace it with something else, and know that you have done so, and know that you have done so, and that when you put this book back on the shelf, it has now been resubmitted for publication. And the next time you take that book down, it will be a different book. Can you see that in this library in your mind here? There are books upon shelves, upon rooms, upon rows, upon rows. That is your world. It's nobody else's. It's your world. And you can write in any of those books. And as you go through this process, what are you doing? We talked initially about habits of thought. The habits of thought that you have are in those books. And rewriting a page in and of itself is not necessarily going to change that habit unless you believe that you have changed it. So, as always, we want to encourage you to get to the place of confidence here. Get to the place of expecting. And the way you can make that change permanent is to dwell on it, is to focus on it, is to say to yourself, I am the master of my destiny. I am the creator of my world. And allow yourself to expect different things. It is that change of expectation, ultimately, that rewrites that book. It is that change of belief that leads to the change of expectation that sits behind the whole of this creation, the whole of this library. Good. And so we encourage you to visit this library and see it for what it is. It is yours. It is yours to play in. It is yours to change. You are not going to want to rewrite every book in this library. It would take you a lifetime, perhaps. But pick the books that you want to change. Take them down, see what's in them, make the changes, resubmit for publication. And by resubmit for publication, we mean focus on the new content and allow it to come into being. Focus on the new content and be in the place of it being a fact of life. And then as you do that, you step into a different version of the world, because that library sitting back there is your world. It is the definition. It is the blueprint to which the law of attraction responds. It is the place from which the definition of everything that you experience sits. Look around you right now. What do you see? What you see is what is in the book called My Home, or this room, or this desk, or that window. You see, you have defined it all, and there it is. And we want you to know that even as you have defined it, so you can change it. We have often said choice is your middle name, and it certainly is. You are here to choose and choose again and choose anew. And as you dance and struggle in this game of life, and you come up against a little contrast now and then, let your reaction be, that's interesting. That's not what I want in my book. What do I want in my book now? Take it down, look at it, not to dwell upon it. And now what changes do you want to make? To make it more fun, to make it more exciting, to make it more love-filled, to make it more joy-filled, to make it more adventurous. Anything but boring or endangering or risking or whatever. Allow it to be an adventure and a fun adventure. And that is your world, and your world will conform. It will wrap itself around you after you have changed what's in those books. So, Mary Beth, we will pass back to you to see if there is anyone who has a question or a comment. There is no question or comment that is off the mark here. We encourage you to be a part of this call.
I would love to hear if anyone would like to share what they have written in their new book. If anyone would like to. I know for myself I started writing specific things, specific topics, money or health or whatever, and then I realized, wait a minute, what I really, really want is joy. Just this constant place of being in joy. And so that's my number one priority. And everything else flowing from there.
Perhaps, Mary Beth, you want all the books in your library to be in the children's section.
I love that.
And we would recommend that.
Oh, that's funny.
We would recommend that.
Anybody want to group chat or leave a comment? I love this image.
Hello?
I think. Oh, there's Patrick. Go ahead, Patrick.
I have to agree with you on joy. And the question is, can I just pull the books off the shelf and just chunk them away and just start writing from that point of joy? As you know, I'm giving up the kit and caboodle here, and I haven't thought about writing the book per se, but journaling it moment to moment and coming from a point of joy. As I look back at those shelves, I don't even want to open them. I'm not sure how to feel about that, but I do know that I don't want to open them. I just pull them off and hand it to the bonfire.
And so you may do, Patrick. And we would say each of you will find your own method, if you like, of filling this library with that which you want. But if there is a book there that is defining your world, and when you are out in this world and encountering what this world contains, which of course is what's in those books, and you are finding things that are not wanted, you could, if you like, Patrick, say, I'm taking this book and burning it and rewriting it from scratch. And we say, have at it, have at it. And for some of you, you want to take the book down and say, but how could I have possibly created this? And so we would then say a little bit of delving into what you've got in that book, which you can do, is not only possible, but also perhaps an advantage for you. Because then you will see how it is that you are creating the world around you. It's in there somewhere. Allow yourself to, in your mind, to go into that library and say, what do I really expect about this?
I guess to each of us, the metaphor of rewriting is simply that. There doesn't have to be a writing. It could be a painting, or in my case, an acting out. Almost if there were many computer screens in front of me and I can throw images here, there, 3D, back and forth. I guess just writing the book per se from the point that we find most joyful, and doing it, I guess, page by page. There's a part of me, yeah, I understand completely what you're saying, that book on the shelf that just doesn't serve me. But I sort of look at the cover and I just don't even want to go back past it. I just like, I know what's in there, and let me give it to the five and dime because I don't need it anymore.
We love your example, Patrick, and we say you have, in fact, contributed enormously to this discussion, because whenever we give these techniques, each of you must take them and adapt them to yourself, because there is no one size fits all in any of this, of course. And so for each of you, you will have your mental journeys and your mental gymnastics and your mental decisions, and the way in which your mind works is individual to you and unique to you. And so, as always, take that which works for you, adapt it to yourself, and make it part of your, if you like, the way in which you approach this game of creation. So we say, have at it, and whatever works for you, works for you. All we would encourage people to do is to understand that this library exists. It is what defines the world around you in every sense, in every small detail. You may not recognize that the details of all of that are in there, but the range of things that are in your world is defined. And as you see and understand details, so it gets filled in. But yes, Patrick, by all means.
If that detail yields contrast, is that a signal to us that there might be another book on that shelf somewhere that we've forgotten about, or something we're consciously choosing?
Well, as you, if you like, mix it up with all of those other conscious entities, and mix it up with this physical world that you've created that moves around and does strange things on occasions, as you mix it up with all of that, you will encounter things, but all of them, of course, are described either in concept or in detail in your library. And so we would simply say, if you experience contrast, find a way to move beyond it to a better feeling thought, by whatever means it takes. And if a little exploration of the library seems like a good idea, go do it. Because if you want to find out where the book it is that's describing what you are experiencing, then it's in there somewhere. And as we said, you can do many things. You can take it down, you can dust it off, you can open it up and change a few things. You could take it out into the bonfire. You could take it to somebody else's library and put it in there and say, that's yours now, I'm leaving here. You could do it any way you like.
Good. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Tara. Any more questions or comments at this point? If not, good time to close, Tara.
Yes. Well, we have used this metaphor, if you like, of library to have you understand the degree to which you are the master of your destiny, as we said before, and to encourage you and give you the confidence to take the steps necessary to move more and more towards your role as creator. Ask yourself, why are you here? Why on earth are you in this game? And you might say, well, there's some purpose for me I haven't yet figured out. And you could play the game that way. But we tell you you're always a choice. And what feels good and what you choose today may be different to what feels good to you and you choose tomorrow. And that is absolutely fine. But can you see that that choice is why you are here? To recognize that you are a creator, and to, within this environment, in this game, And we're going to use the word limitation here. Within the limitation of the rules of this game that you have chosen, and we do not mean that word limitation to mean something less or something negative, because you cannot play any game unless you agree to the rules. And so here you are in this experience, in this lifetime of space-time reality, and you are here to see what it's like to create in this environment. Fundamentally, you are a creator. You are always expanding and changing. You are a creator at your core. And all you are doing here is to see what life would be like creating in this environment. That is fundamentally why you are here. We want you to remember that. And if you have closed down things because you have tamped off your expectations of everything in order to be risk-free, in order to not be disappointed, then you are settling into a place of complacency or a place of boredom. It has become a world that's lacking in adventure. And we want to open your eyes to the possibilities here that exist once again. You can sit in that crescent moon and watch the earth and visit anywhere and create anything. Do not be bound by that which seems to be your limitations. They're only the ones you have chosen, and any of them is up for grabs. And so we would conclude here by saying we have enjoyed this interaction immensely. We have enjoyed this intersection. We have enjoyed being with you in your library. We've enjoyed sitting with you as you explore those books. And we want you to know that we are always with you if you choose to explore a book. You do not have to take it from the shelf and feel that you are alone and stuck with the words on that page. Together we will dance a little, and out of that will come a new version of you and a new version of the world that you attract to you. And then we will both rejoice, because that is the fun stuff. And for now, we are complete.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Robin. And thanks to all of our wonderful callers. And we will see you next time.
Yes. So thanks, everybody. We'd love to have you come join us as we have these Saturday hangouts, and come along, bring your questions, as we say. And then if this resonates with you and you'd like to share it with others, then we'd love you to do that also. So thanks, everybody, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.